Hello, and thanks for joining us for the Friends of the Farm lecture series. My name is Candace. I want to thank all of our viewers and all of our customers from joining us all over the world. That's our customers from pharmacy, the pottery, and the natural healing centers. Today we have a great webinar, and we'll be talking with Darren Story, the CFO and one of the founders of Coastal Sun. We'll be learning about the main benefits of choosing organic cannabis. I was really excited to invite Coastal Sun to cover this topic because they're one of the renowned experts in organic cultivation. They're passionate about providing safe, clean, planet-friendly flowers and pre-rolls to communities across California and beyond. Coastal Sun's biodiverse central farm in Santa Cruz was the first to achieve the USDA Organic, OCal, and EnvirOganic certifications, which we'll learn about a little bit later, paving the way for a new generation of innovators in establishing their role as the global leaders in organic cannabis. Working with nature instead of against it allows Coastal Sun to efficiently grow cannabis that's better for the planet and pass savings on to the people. In this session, we'll be joined by Darren Story, who's the CFO at Coastal Sun. Darren was born and raised in the Salinas Valley, surrounded by ag and growing up only a few miles from Coastal Sun's flagship farm. Darren believes strongly in the healing power of plants and their potential for rebuilding both human and planet well-being. Darren's team was built and they believe regenerative agriculture and decentralizing the food production is the only way that we can have long-term viable alternatives to the current commercial agricultural process. Their technologically advanced growing style, extensive nutrient regimen, and cutting-edge sustainability measures have gained them many accolades in a very short time. I'm so excited to have Darren with us today. Hi, Darren.
Hey, Candace. Thanks for having us. And I'm really excited to run through one of my favorite topics, which is just growing healthy plants. And we know the best way to do it is using organic methods, what we call planet-friendly farming. So the title of the presentation, Why Organic Cannabis is Better. And I will run through a little background of us, how we cultivate, how we grow healthier plants than everybody else, and why that health is passed on to the patient. And really little sneak preview. We could sum this all up and end the webinar by just saying, why is organic cannabis better? Is because it heals better. Cannabis is a healing plant. It's plant-based medicine. End of story. We can all go home. But I'm going to run through how we get there and make it a lot more fun. So
well, thank you so much. Let's get into it.
So Coastal Sun's a brand that's owned by Strong Agronomy. Strong Agronomy is a company we founded in 2015 in my hometown, just by chance in Watsonville, California. We also have a blueberry brand called Coastal Moon. We started with blueberries, and then we rotated into cannabis shortly thereafter when we took over the cultivation for WHAM, which is the longest running and oldest collectives in the United States. They were instrumental in getting cannabis passed for medicinal use. They actually fought the DEA and won to provide for their patients. And we took over the cultivation for them in late 2015. And we just never looked back. We just continue getting better at growing healthy plants. We're very focused on regenerative organics, which we like to re-term as planet friendly. Less of a mouthful. I sometimes stumble on regenerative myself. We grow in substrate and biologically rich fields. Substrate is what you typically see in greenhouses. It's very hard to grow organically in a greenhouse, but we've been doing it since 2015 and we continue to get better. We're committed to grow healthy plants because for a lot of reasons. My partners and I, they came from farming backgrounds. They had biological tea companies. They worked in organic nutrient fertilizer companies. And I've been a vegan following a plant-based diet since right around the time we started this farm. But I really became passionate about my health, and which led me into a plant-based lifestyle. And then I just really wanted to start learning what makes me healthy. And I found out it's the inputs, it's what I eat. And so I started learning about farming. And, know your farmer is just the first rule. And if you want to be healthy and understand where your food comes from, you really have to know your farm and how they do everything, soup to just the entire process. So we optimize our cultivation system, optimizes the most efficient use of sun, air, water, and our native microbiome. We depend heavily on microbiology, and we can go through that in a little bit. And really, you start to understand how the microbiology pushes the health of the plants and basically everything on this planet. It's very similar to human health, and as you'll see. Coastal Sun is our cannabis brand. You'll see our logo. It says Coastal Sun Organic Cannabis because it's not technically USDA certified. We'll go over a little bit later how we get it certified organic in California. Our blueberries are USDA certified organic, but you won't see organic cannabis on our label. You can't do that. But we know it's organic. We get it certified through a different process. We are a network. We're not just Strong Agronomy. Coastal Sun is a network of organic cannabis growers in Northern California. Right now, there's 7 farms that feed into the brand.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So it's all legacy growers. Like everybody's been growing organic cannabis for a long time. We have a greenhouse and full-term sun-grown outdoor SKU. The greenhouse is controlled environment agriculture, so it's more expensive. It gives you a different type of crop. It's rich. It has lighter color, but it's all nuanced. The different areas really give you a lot of the terroir, just similar to wine grapes. So it's really special when you grow these strains in both the greenhouse and outdoors and in different climates throughout Northern California. So our sun-grown outdoors, it's seasonal. It comes once a year, and it's really flavorful. And because it's less expensive for us to cultivate, it's a value SKU, and it flew off the shelf this year. We're already out. Like we scheduled that we would have enough supply for like 9 months, and we blew through it in like less than 4. So
wow, good problem to have.
we're gonna get more this year. And then another thing we're really driven is, as I mentioned, we were born from compassion by being an umbrella company of WHAM when we first got started, and we're not going to stop with compassion. So the SB 34 is a state program which allows cultivators to provide medicine to patients. And we work with a lot of different veterans groups and patient-based advocacy groups and a lot of great retailers. Pharmacy's one of them.
Yep. Pharmacy,
Catalyst,
battery, and natural healing
centers. It's amazing the way California operators are so driven towards compassion. So if there's any patients out there and they need to learn about a compassion program in your area, or if you have a store you work with and you would like to get Coastal Sun as a compassion donation, let them know. Hit us up. Like we don't leave any patients out there wanting.
Love that. I love that you guys even have like a specific SKU too. That's your compassion SKU, and It says SB 34 on the label. I love that.
Oh yeah, it's from start to finish. We grow it for compassion. We want to make sure that the patients get the highest quality medicine, and a lot of operators, they use what they call short life products, where they're almost going to expire, because in California the cannabis products only have a year before they need to get sold. But not us. We from the beginning, we grow these plants and earmark a certain percentage to patients to make sure that they're getting exceptionally high quality medicine, as they should. These are people that are in need and ailing, and we know that cannabis heals, and they should get the highest quality stuff. So yeah, we don't leave anything out. Okay, so I want to give a little background on planet-friendly farming. As I mentioned, some people call it regenerative agriculture. It's a lot easier for us to just call it planet-friendly. And in a nutshell, planet-friendly farming promotes life and fosters biodiversity. So in the 1970s, when they came out with the Green Revolution, they started using synthetics to cultivate plants. They really got heavily geared towards exclusion, where they were trying to kill everything: rodenticides, herbicides, pesticides, that anything that ends with IDE, that's Latin for death. And so they started trying to farm by death. And it's really tough when you're trying to outsmart nature, because as you've seen in movies like Jurassic Park and whatnot, Nature usually wins eventually. So what we're seeing right now, and what we've started seeing over the last couple decades, is we've really seen the effects of conventional agriculture catching up with us, and we're seeing all kinds of birth defects, ailments, ecological damage, and planet-friendly farming tends to go even beyond organic farming and really work towards understanding nature and mimicking it and growing plants that are healthy for humans and healthy for the environment. So it's easier for us to tell you what planet-friendly farming's not, because it's so new. We're learning so much about it. The technology is rapidly advancing, and all the operators that are practicing and learning this, it's open IP. So we're just constantly sharing information, and what we think we know today, it's going to be, we're going to even know a lot more tomorrow. Yep. So I can tell you what we don't do. And like I said, we don't depend on pesticides, herbicides, salt-based fertility, or genetic modification. We know we don't want to, that doesn't work for us. We know we're not trying to solve crop management challenges by eliminating life. As I mentioned, we want to promote life. We're not removing carbon from the Earth's crust. So we don't use salt-based fertilizers for that. We're actually taking carbon and putting it back in the crust where it belongs, the soil. As I mentioned, we tend to go beyond organic and sustainable. We like the world. We think it's in a good place. We think we can get it better. So regenerative planet-friendly farming actually grows plants that heal the planet and regenerate a lot of our ecological destruction that's caused over the last couple decades. Planet-friendly farming can be is fostering biodiversity. We like to manage crop challenges by promoting competition. It's very important that we, just throw a bunch of nature at it and see what happens. We think that we can, like for pests and pathogens, we just find a predator pest that can come and destroy the crop, what we call the herbivorous pests, which are the ones that eat plants. It's always funny that the pests that we're trying to get rid of are the vegan pests, and the ones that we use on our that are on our side are the carnivorous pests. Those are the ones that go, or the carnivorous bugs that go after the pests that are eating the crops that I want to eat. So kind of funny. We depend heavily on microbiology to stimulate strong immunal responses. Some of you have probably heard that our gut microbiome is really almost as important to human health as our brain and our heart.
Yep. Second brain.
It controls your brain and heart quite a bit. And the same thing goes for plants. They have a root rhizosphere, which is when the biology is in balance. It's very similar to our gut microbiome being in balance, and it really regulates that plant health and builds the immune system. And it's the immune system that pushes the phytonutrients in the plants that are the healing properties for the humans. We seek to create balance in the carbon cycle and restore soil water holding capacity. So the microbiology is actually what holds water in the soil. And in the Central Valley of California and other places where you see heavy use of salt fertilizers, the soil has lost its ability to hold water. And it's important because the earth uses that water that's held by the microbiology. It signals when it's hot and arid, the microbiology will give up that water and create what we call localized cooling patterns. And much of California has lost that ability, which is why you see a lot of the, fire danger that we didn't see here in California when we were younger.
And I think the salt pesticides is what really caused the Dust Bowl. Remember back all those years ago in the Depression, they were over using pesticides, which caused like the farming, to fail because they couldn't hold on to the water. So
a lot of that had to do with erosion and just not smart farming, cover cropping and whatnot. So what is our main premise for planet-friendly farming? Well, health is the number one, wellness and health. We want to increase the health of our workers, the people that produce the food. We don't want to expose them to dangerous chemicals. We know that it doesn't do good things for their health. And we have to take care of the people that are growing the crops for all of us. It increases the health of our consumers and increases the health of the planet. We can't have a real conversation about health without including the planet and the people who produce the plants. So for us, it has to go beyond organic, and it really needs to start rebuilding the health and the wellness of the planet and the people that are producing it, as I said. As we rebuild the ecosystem, every successive crop in planet-friendly farming should actually be less to produce because we're really leveraging the microbiology. We're growing healthy plants. It sequesters carbon, puts it back into the Earth's crust. It feeds the microbiology. So when it's done right, you're actually building more organic matter in the soil and getting higher levels of microbiological advantages. And it actually becomes less intensive to cultivate every single crop if you do it right. So regenerative, planet-friendly farming actually reduces your cost of goods overall, so it's more profitable for the farmers. Well, why doesn't everybody do it? It's extremely difficult to get started, and farmers live off of a thin margin to begin with. So for them to transition or just start implementing some of these practices, it's a big leap of faith. And people have to. Everyone's afraid of the unknown, and they just, once they start trying a few of these practices and it works, then they just get passionate and they get really excited about it. And then they start sharing information, and it really catches a lot of momentum. And we think that if this is done right and we can get enough farmers to implement it, that we can really improve the quality of life for everybody on the planet, not just the people that are consuming the plants, but because if we, this will spread like wildfire, that we can actually regenerate the planet and restore a lot of the environmental damage relatively quickly, most likely in a generation or two, a lot faster than people think. Okay, so what are some of the main premises and how do we farm in planet-friendly fashion? We want to implement systems which are meant to build, refurbish, and improve the environment that we're in. So one of the things we do is we want to increase photosynthesis of the plants. Plants typically photosynthesize, cultivated plants photosynthesize about 20% of their capacity. So if we can find methods to increase the photosynthesis, we actually capture more of the sun's energy, which is converted into sugars and fed to the biology inside the Earth's crust. We call that the liquid carbon pathway. So that's really what we're trying to do, is optimize photosynthesis, increase the liquid carbon pathway, and really speed up the carbon sequestration, which is capturing carbon in the air and putting it back into the Earth's crust. Speed that up, which turbocharges the sugar production. And it really, like I said, it feeds the microbiology, and every single iteration, if done right, the crops get less expensive to produce. One of the other things we like to do is reduce tillage. We want to keep plant roots in the ground as much as possible because, again, the sun is putting free energy onto the earth. It's captured by the leaves of the plant, which is like a solar panel, and it's converted into food for the beneficial microbiology. So as many plant roots are in the ground as possible, the better, because we're not wasting all that sun's energy. So we want to maintain that favorable environment, and we do that by reducing the amount of times the tractor passes over the fields. Again, like I said, one of the things we talk about is how this style of farming is actually an improvement to organic. Organic farming depends heavily on compost, and in planet-friendly farming, like, we use less compost every year because the crop before actually produced higher levels of organic matter by just optimizing that photosynthesis. So and the way we optimize photosynthesis is we test quite frequently. We do an analysis called SAP analysis, where we test how the plant is moving nutrition between the old growth and the new growth, and really start to understand that when it's in balance and it has balanced levels of food for the plant, and then it gives it the ability to create a robust immune system It's resistant to pests and pathogens, and it really feels like it's in symbiosis with its environment, and it can perform at optimum levels. We've all been there. Any biological being has felt this before, where you're just like eating healthy, you're getting the right amount of exercise, you're getting the right amount of sun, and you're just like, dude, I'm so in touch with my environment right now. And you feel like you're walking on clouds. We try to replicate that with our plants. Yeah, it's not easy, but sometimes we get there and we're just like, all right, how do we do this?
That's awesome. So much goes into cultivation. People have no idea, you know.
Oh yeah, it's so fun. So when we do hit this stride, we can increase organic matter and improve the soil microbiology 5 times faster than any other form of environmental remediation. So it's like plants can literally heal the entire world. People don't know this yet. They're like, well, I like blueberries and weed, it makes me feel good. It's like, it makes like healthy plants make the earth feel good too.
Yeah.
So it's just like, it's how we get there. Okay, so who can benefit from planet-friendly farming? Well, in a nutshell, as I mentioned, basically everybody. But what really excites me about it is we could pass the baton to our future generations, and we can really rescript the narrative that they've been dealt. It's like making an investment in the future generations rather than always borrowing from the future generations. And what do we leave them with? So the future generations, if this is done right, we can give them a planet that was better than when we came here. They can inherit something that was better than what we got. And that's just like, give me another way that can be done. I know Elon Musk is trying to colonize Mars or repopulate Mars, and maybe he gets there. But for us stuck on Earth, planet-friendly farming is the only thing I know that I think can really make the world a better place for the next generation and leave them with something that's not going to be like a scene out of Wall-E. What we're also going to see is a lot of land transfers in the next 20 years. A lot of the baby boomers are retiring or passing away, and a lot of them own large swaths of farmland throughout the United States. And because of the conventional agriculture that's been done, it hasn't been a bright future. So a lot of they don't really have anybody to pass this on to. But with planet-friendly farming, we can teach others, newer generation, these methods, and they'll be able to go get this farmland, for a lot cheaper than they would have 20 years ago. So there's going to be a massive land transfer coming on the horizon.
True.
And it really gives us an opportunity to do this. And I put there, first weed, then food, because, growing up as a child, I personally wasn't interested in agriculture, even though I grew up in an agricultural community. It just wasn't done right. Like, I just remember, biplanes buzzing our school, blasting the apple orchards with pesticides when we were young. And that was like par for the course. Like, some of our friends' dads were pest applicators, and they would just spray this stuff from airplanes, and our school would be right next to the field. Explains a little bit about me. But now we have a style where you're actually doing good. And a lot of what I learned is the farmers of our generation, my generation and some of the younger generation, they just started growing weed in their backyard or their parents' basement. And they've learned some of these techniques. And now that we're allowed to do it legally, we're really refining these techniques with cannabis. And all these cannabis farmers that are successful today, like, we're going to expand. We grow blueberries, and there's a lot of other farmers in our network that grow other crops, organic grapes and whatnot. And we'll just continue expanding our ability to produce, high level nutrient dense crops. And we really see a bright future for that. Current consumers, as I mentioned, you will benefit. I mean, people that taste our blueberries, the first thing that they ask is like, how do they taste so good? They taste good because your body craves nutrients, and you're putting a nutrient dense blueberry in your mouth probably for the first time. And they just go, it's a flavor no one expects. They're just like, how do you get it to taste so good? It's like, you just grow it right. Like, the blueberry should taste that good. Same thing with the cannabis. People are always amazed at the flavor and the aroma first. That's the first thing your body notices. I would say always be skeptical and educate yourself to learn more about how your crops were grown. And like I always say, we focus on inclusivity versus exclusivity. We don't think that healthy crops should be something that only certain demographics can afford, which is why we love this style of farming. Because as I mentioned, the better we get at it, the lower our cost of production is. We can lower our costs, and everybody can afford it. It's a big thing for us. Because as you know, again, like any living being, it's very expensive to be sick and unwell. People spend a lot more on medicine in the United States or maybe Western civilization than food. Like, just you look at the average family budget and health insurance and the cost of going to a doctor versus what they spend on food, and you start to understand that it does cost a lot to be unhealthy. So, again, planet-friendly farming, we could produce these crops, help people achieve a path of wellness. And, they start to understand, wow, I'm saving a lot of money on, my medical budget. So yeah, we're excited for where this goes. So when's the best time to start planet-friendly farming? I say now. As I mentioned before, agriculture is either going to be humanity's most destructive practice, which it currently has been, or it's going to be a silver bullet. So if we do this right, we all work together, and the consumers really demand it from their farmers, then we're going to be in a good place. And as I mentioned, we can turn this planet around very, very quickly if we farm it correctly. Okay, so you guys learned a little bit about how we grow our plants. Now we're going to get to the hot topic of the webinar: 5 reasons why OCal certified organic cannabis is better for you and the planet. As you know, making the right choice at the dispensary for both you and your health is often a daunting task. It's not easy. You go there, there's so much to learn. The bud tenders are your real source of knowledge, but they have a lot of products. They don't necessarily get to know them all, and it's overwhelming. We understand it. We know it's confusing, but the vast majority of products at the dispensary are often associated with a number of different hidden costs. At Coastal Sun, we believe in the healing power of cannabis and have compiled this list here for you of why we believe organic cannabis is your only choice if you want to be on a path of happy, healthy life. We'll go through them real quick, and then I have a slide diving into each one. So OCal certification keeps chemicals out of your weed. OCal and organic are synonymous with each other. Organic cannabis heals people better. It's the number one thing. It heals you. We can just end it right there, but it does heal you. And by the way, in my opinion, I could be wrong, but I think that everybody is using cannabis to heal some type of ailment. It's so powerful in healing people. They may not even know or be aware of it, yep. But like you learn about it later on in your journey. You're like, oh, that's why, you know what I mean? It just, yep. It starts to open you up, and you start to understand, like, it makes sense now. The more you learn about yourself, the more you learn about your consumption and why it works.
Yeah. Even use it recreationally for stress management is a medical use as well.
Stress, sleep, pain, anxiety, like you name it. When you're young, like when you're in high school and stuff, you're like, oh, well, maybe not high school, but depends on where you grew up. But when you're young, you're just like, oh, I was just using it to get high. It's like, oh, maybe you thought you were.
Yeah.
So that's how it pulls you in. And then you're like, oh, actually, this was healing an ailment. Mm-hmm. Organic cannabis is better for the earth. Conventional cannabis producers cause damage to the planet, so it's not good for the earth. And organic cannabis supports a healthy farm lifestyle and community. I want to go over OCal cannabis real quick so you understand why we can't get the USDA certified organic, because cannabis is not yet a federally legal crop, and the National Organic Program is administered by the USDA. We are not able to get organic certification. So OCal is a program that the CDFA came up with. It was when they legalized cannabis, when the voters chose to legalize cannabis with Prop 64, they also voted to develop a comparable to organic program that would be led by California Department of Food and Agriculture for producers that produce cannabis in a fashion at least on par with the USDA National Organic Program. I say at least on par because it's actually more stringent than the USDA program. There's 2 inputs that we actually can't even use in our cannabis that we can use in our blueberries. So it's very, very strict, and it's a great program. We're excited that they got this online. Each producer must pass at least 1 audit per year by a third party, and that third party auditor is state authorized. So that auditor is managed by the CDFA, and they are the CDFA makes sure that they're running the program to the standards and checks in on them frequently. OCal ensures cannabis operations meet the standards consistent with the NOP. I'm happy to announce that the OCal just started mid to late last year. It took people a while to get on board and write their programs. Because we were already doing organic blueberries, it was really easy transition for us. But now all the Coastal Sun farms that feed our brand are OCal certified. We helped some of the smaller Northern California farms get OCal certified. So everyone will have OCal certification on their label this year. And as I mentioned, OCal certified is organic cannabis. If you see the OCal symbol, you know it's grown organically.
Do you happen to know how many farms statewide have earned that OCal status?
Sure. Last I looked, it was about 18, but it's catching up quickly.
Yeah,
like
so
I just
you're
spoke to another
7
grower.
out of 18.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We want to get all of them. Kind of the way we kind of see this rolling out as it goes national is Coastal Sun. We're in Santa Cruz. We're in a position where we can grow nursery stock efficiently, and we can process very well because it's an agricultural community. If anybody that's been in the Salinas and Pajaro Valley, you can just see some of the legacy infrastructure that was developed for apples and berries and other crops. And with cannabis, we can really just rehab that infrastructure, and we can do volume agriculture. So we see where we're at geographically located to be able to really help a lot of these legacy Northern California farms bring the cannabis in. We can send them the starts, the baby plants. They grow the cannabis, and then we get it back from them, and we process it and package. And it really is a great network. It helps consumers get access to amazing cannabis strains and flavors that they wouldn't be able to get down in Southern California in some of these, city areas, the urban areas. And it helps the farmers, spread their product out to a wider consumer base. But we kind of think as this grows throughout California and nationally, that we see that a lot of we think it can be like wine, where a lot of the smaller regional producers can kind of have their own brands in some of the local dispensaries that are far out of the way for us, and we can really focus and take a lot of the farm's product and distribute it in the urban areas, and we can do it very affordably to make sure that some of the urban demographics can have access to this amazing healing plant-based medicine, and it's a win for everybody. So we're really excited. But growers are starting to come online and adopt these principles. So it's really exciting.
That's great. There's so many legacy farmers that are struggling right now. And I think it is really hard for them to get down to the urban areas and, teach the consumer down there about the wonderful products that they have. So I love that you guys have become that conduit to help save these farmers and to bring their medicine down to the areas that you guys are already in. That's amazing.
Yeah. Well, we're not, it's teamwork. I wouldn't say we're saving anybody. Like we're saving each other.
That help though. Great.
Okay. Number one reason why. So we'll go into how OCal Organic certification makes sure that it will keep chemicals out of your weed. It's true, as you all know, that California has regulations against the use of certain banned pesticides. And every cannabis and cannabis product you buy at the dispensary must pass rigorous lab testing before it's sold to the public. However, what you don't know is the list of banned chemicals is now over 5 years old. And as farmers do, the conventional growers have found new insecticides, which aren't on the banned list and aren't being tested for. One of those is Endeavor. We're well aware that Endeavor is used frequently in conventional cannabis production. The active ingredient in Endeavor is, I can't even pronounce some of these words, pymetrazine. It's also a known EPA carcinogen. And just imagine that good chance you're smoking that and inhaling it when you are smoking conventionally grown cannabis. Where OCal, organic certification, on the other hand, rather than tell you what products are banned that you can't use, they have a very, very limited list of inputs that you can use. So they regulate what you can use to grow plants, and it is very limited. So all the inputs that we use have to be on the Organic Materials Research Institute list, the OMRI list. It's a third party that vets organic inputs approved for organic production, and it also must be approved by the CDFA. So we can guarantee the organic producers are not using chemicals.
Wonderful. And sometimes it is easier to tell you what you can use and what you can't, because like you said, that science moves so fast.
Yeah, it moves fast. And we actually make some of the inputs that we use, we just make it on the farm with plants and, biology. Like we try to depend heavily on doing it ourselves, because it really, you just know exactly where the starting inputs come from when you grow it yourself. So it's a lot of our IP goes into that. So as I mentioned, cannabis is a healing plant-based medicine. It's very powerful. We love it. And we know that starting with organic cannabis is going to heal you better. As I mentioned, we focus on high levels of phytonutrients. Phytonutrients are the healing compounds that are found and can only be grown from plants. They can't be synthesized in a lab. Some of those phytonutrients are commonly known that you've heard of: terpenes and cannabinoids, THC, CBD, CBN, CBG. Those are all the cannabinoids and the wonderful terpenes that people are starting to learn about. So how do we know that organic cannabis can heal you better? As I mentioned, intuitively, we know that our bodies crave nutrients, and it leads to an enhanced perception of flavor and aroma. Same thing with our blueberries. People taste them, they love them. Cannabis is no different. However, now that cannabis is legal, we're starting to get some research done by schools and researchers, and they're starting to really actually show scientifically that the organic cannabis does in fact heal people better. So a landmark paper published just this last December called Comparison of Cannabinoid and Terpene Profiles shows that organic growing methods using living soil and natural sunlight produce significantly higher levels of cannabinoids and terpenes than conventionally grown indoors. And this is very important. That, as I mentioned, high levels of phytonutrients is very important, because another study shows that it is in fact these phytochemicals that are responsible for the most symptom relief in consumers, including chronic pain, depression, and anxiety. That is called Terpenes and Patient Outcomes. That's the short of that study. And the long name of the study is Systematic Combinations of Major Cannabinoid and Terpene Contents in Cannabis Flower and Patient Outcomes. If you're interested, I highly suggest reading that and just staying on top of it. Like, it's, intuitively it makes sense, but researchers always want to know, and they're going to continue learning about this, because we want to understand what combinations, we call it antagonistic and synergistic effects of the phytochemicals, in particular the terpenes and the cannabinoids, what types of combinations and in what amounts affect which type of ailments. They're doing a lot of this research in Israel. They're starting to come to the United States and research it, they're doing a lot of the medical research in Israel about the terpene and cannabinoid combinations and what ailments. However, it's the United States that's really starting to focus and understand on what pushes those levels of phytonutrients in the plant. Israel is, a lot of the cannabis they're using for their research is grown conventionally. So it's kind of interesting how this is all going to play out. Like we're going to tell them, oh, well, that's interesting. You found that combination, because we actually have plants that are much more efficient at producing that combination than the stuff you've been using.
That's really cool.
Again, organic cannabis, because we use planet-friendly farming practices, practices. It's not just healthier for humans, it's healthier for the earth. Let me get my notes. We know that the organic producers use planet-friendly farming practices, which result in a net benefit to the planet, while the conventional grown cannabis places profits over planet. Planet-friendly farming means incorporating a holistic system to improve soil, water, and air quality, enhance the ecosystem biodiversity, produce the nutrient-dense crops, and stores carbon to help mitigate the effects of climate change. So the planet-friendly farming system is harmonious with nature and ensures that we put people, planet, and profits on equal pedestals. All stakeholders benefit. Like the way we grow and our farming in general, it just doesn't make sense for us to prioritize profits if our people and the people that our patients in particular and our farm workers aren't going to be healthy. Like they need to benefit or it doesn't make sense for us. If you look at the long game and you prioritize profits over patients when you're dealing with medicine, it just seems like eventually you're going to run out of customers, right? Because what's going to happen if the medicine doesn't work? So for us, it just like you look at the long game and you're like, okay, well, the patients and the profits have to come at the same time, and you can't grow healthy plants without your planet being regenerated and continuing to provide the inputs that grow the plants. So it's the only way that makes sense for us. And we think in the long run, everyone's going to be that way. It's kind of where we see the future. Like if you drink hard kombucha or some other products, you'll see like you can't find a conventional hard kombucha. It's all certified organic. Like you don't even have shelf space unless you have an organic product. So we think that we can get there with cannabis someday as well.
Interesting. Yeah.
I know no one thinks about it. They're like, well, what other industry is everybody organic? I said, well, hard kombucha, like, you can't find them.
And the kombucha, you're right. The kombucha drinkers are not, they're looking for that in the label. They're not going to choose somebody that's, not grown organically.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just starting inputs, garbage in, garbage out.
Mm-hmm.
So, the other reason is conventionally grown cannabis just causes damage to the planet. We applaud the fact that many of the California conventional cannabis growers have reduced their dependence on herbicides and pesticides, as I mentioned, and they are trying to cut back on some of their energy consumption with indoor growers. But what a lot of people don't understand is the use of synthetic fertilizers actually continues to cause massive damage to our planet, and in some cases, it's worse than the pesticides and herbicides. There's simply no efficient way to remove the toxic sludge that's left over from conventional fertilizer. Some of the residual damage that's caused to the planet includes waterway pollution, which causes the algae blooms and dead spots in the ocean, increased air pollution because it releases greenhouse gases from the soil where the carbon belongs, soil acidification leading to erosion and runoff. Put plainly, when you really look at it, conventional cannabis cultivation just places profits over people on the planet. There's no other way to look at it. Organic cannabis supports vibrant communities. As I mentioned, there's no pesticide drift that the neighboring schools have to worry about. There's no salt-based fertilizers or pesticides or herbicides running into the drinking water. And the farm workers that are growing the plants don't have to worry about the working with chemicals. It doesn't harm the surrounding community. It keeps toxins out of the air and the drinking water. Yeah, and the farm workers. So I'm kind of repeating myself. Sorry, those are. I wanted to make sure my slides are in synchronous with my notes. But that is it. That's my presentation. We still have a little bit of time left, so I was going to open it up to questions.
That was so great. Thank you so much. I've been like smiling the whole time because I love this information. It's so great. And I can see our audience is, they're right there with you. So this has been really great information. Thank you. I have a couple questions that I prepared. Is that okay?
Yeah, I'm ready for them.
Great. And if anybody has any, they can also add them in the Q&A. So what would you say the biggest challenges that Coastal Sun faces as a brand that's dedicated to the highest quality of organic standards? What is your guys' biggest challenge?
Government intervention. I feel like anything you give the government, they're going to mess it up. Like we look at Amtrak and the U.S. Postal Service, and we're just like, oh. And they've actually done the same thing, unfortunately, with the organic program. While it does give consumers a label to recognize, and it's easy, the farmers, as I mentioned, the National Organic Program has really spiraled out of control. And it's very exclusionary where it's basically you're an organic farmer and you're searching to get that certification so you can market it to consumers. And you're really just kind of doing the least case scenario. Like there's a lot of organic farms in our area, not cannabis, just, Taylor farms and whatnot. And they don't even cover crops. So they just do the bare minimum to get that certification. And we feel that without government intervention, then the consumers have to go learn more about their farm, and they start seeing some of these practices, and they might just not buy that farm, or they might pressure the farm to get better. And so we actually believe that it would probably be better off if the consumers learn more about their farm. So with the regenerative agriculture, the planet-friendly style that we talk about, there's been a lot of chatter in the vegetable and food crop community about trying to get a certification for that. And we think that's a horrible idea. We think that'll exclude a lot of farms from trying these practices and then learning over time that they're actually more profitable implementing these practices and starting to adopt more and more. So we're fighting hard to keep the government out of regenerative farming and just let the industry figure it out for themselves, and really trying to educate consumers to push the farms to get better. It makes the customers healthier, it makes the planet healthier, and it makes the farm workers healthier. So government intervention for sure is the biggest challenge in farming, especially cannabis.
Yeah, and there are some other self-regulated industries where, like you said, the participating bodies just work to keep the standards high so that the government doesn't step in and intervene. Like the scuba diving industry, self-regulated. And there's very high standards, rules, and SOPs, within the different agencies that certify people. So that's really interesting. I'm glad that you pointed that out. You also mentioned several times regenerative growing practices. For those that aren't, familiar with that, can you talk a little bit about what that means, like regenerative growing?
Sure. Yeah, farming in a nutshell, you're growing plants, and the plants, to make it real, to really make this simple, the plants are capturing the sun's energy. They're converting it into a usable form for all other life forms on the planet, right? That's the plant's job. So we want to do that as efficiently as possible and optimize the sun's energy, because it's the sun's love for planet Earth. And so like I said, that it's free. Like, who knows how long it's going to be free, but right now it is. So we want to capture it and optimize it as much as possible. And like I said, the traditional conventional farming, you're utilizing these inputs. So you're utilizing sunlight and water and other inputs, the soil and the earth, and they're doing it very inefficiently. And they've basically tapped out the planet. So the crops you're getting, they're conventionally grown. They're not nutrient dense. They taste horrible. And how do we know they're not nutrient dense? Well, there's been a lot of studies that have shown that the average nutrient density of crops is 76 times less than it was even 50 years ago, before they started using synthetic fertilizers, simply because there's just nothing left in the earth. We've all read the Shel Silverstein novel or children's book, The Giving Tree, and we're seeing it happen in real life. Like, we are just watching the earth give everything it's got, and there's nothing left.
Yeah.
But the good news, and I'm like, it sounds horrible until you really start to understand how regenerative, planet-friendly farming works. And as I mentioned, when it's done right, like, we can capture these inputs and put them back into the earth, the carbon in particular, and put it back into the earth, utilize sunlight more efficiently, utilize water way more efficiently, and just grow the plants more efficiently. And so we really just like regenerate the earth. Like I can't even describe how fast it happens. There's all kinds of methods and techniques we use. Pastoral rotation with sheep. That's why I had a little picture of sheep, where they walk over, they eat the grass, their little hooves just, disturb the soil a little bit, kind of stirs up the microbiology. All that competition starts happening. The microbiology starts developing, becoming more diversified, and the whole system just feeds itself. It's like just watching nature get turbocharged. So a lot of people think, well, plants grow perfectly in nature, which they do, but with some of the technology and just using human innovation, we can actually get these plants to grow more perfectly than in nature. And how do we know this? Because we can measure photosynthesis of the plants. So they have technology to measure the photosynthesis of plants that are growing in nature relative to plants that are cultivated correctly. And we can actually optimize photosynthesis, because a plant in nature, it's really holding a lot of energy in reserve to be able to, compete against other life forms, and just make sure that it's got to be able to stay alive so it can reproduce. And it's also got to make sure that it holds some of its energy in reserve to ward off, danger, pests and pathogens. However, if we can create a stress-free environment, or as close to a stress-free environment as possible for these plants using the right cultivation techniques, it holds less of that energy in reserve. So what does it do with that energy? It pushes it into the fruit, which is what we consume. So that's how you get the nutrient density, is really by just creating a stress-free environment and getting that plant to really function to its highest level capacity. We've all been there. You get into that flow state where you're just doing something that you've always done, but then all of a sudden it just becomes easier. It's like Michael Jordan when he's just raining down threes from half court. And you're like, how is he making every shot right now? You just get into that flow state. So that's really what we're trying to accomplish with our plants. And when it happens, you're just like, oh my God, why can't we do this every time?
Yeah.
It's not easy.
That's so cool. Thank you for that summarization, to reiterate like all the reasons that it's so important, like some examples of how to do it. I've also heard of like hugelkultur, which is pretty cool too, stacking up all of like the natural plants and, trees and stuff that are in your environment, and like letting those like break down and like add nutrients to the soil. So a lot of different practices. What would you say, like someone that's growing at home, maybe just like, 6 plants or whatever, what are some ways that they can grow like with organic methods or regeneratively? Like what are some like small scale things that people can do?
Yeah. I'm going to give you a great resource right here. Hopefully I spell it right. The Elevated Botanist. It's a great website. Sign up for his newsletter. He's all about teaching the home grower how to, grow organically at home.
Cool.
All the way down to like include, how to prep your soil, how to make your own inputs. It's just like I would just start there. Like, yeah, you're gonna see more information than you can digest the first year.
Oh, wonderful. For everybody
That is
watching,
a great resource.
I can't see the chat. It's Elevated Botanist, and he has a website, elevatedbotanist.com, I would assume.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. That's a great resource.
Yeah, it's
great. All right. So one of the favorites of customers here at Pharmacy and of the staff is Banjo. And so a couple questions people were asking, if you can just tell us a little bit more about this cultivar, and then if you're ever going to have it in a larger size available.
Yeah, that cultivar, it's one of those freaks of nature. My partners, and so one of my partners, and then one of his friends, who's also a good supporter of our farm, they were just kind of strain hunting a few years back, actually like probably 10-12 years ago at this point, in Sonoma County, and they had a bunch of seeds, and they lost all the seeds, or none of them were viable, and they just had one seed that they kept from the crop. I don't know. Parker tells the story a lot better than myself, but I don't know. He like blessed it in the moonlight, and he was with a special girl at the time.
Survive.
And he's like, one seed, I'm going to grow it out and see what happens. And that was it. Like, it was just a fluke. So yeah, Banjo is one of that we developed in house, and it's just, yeah, the flavor and the aroma and the effects, it's just a winner all the way around. Um, yeah, it's crazy. Like it's been popular in California and it's kind of ebbed and flowed. Unfortunately, another grower got a hold of it and they almost ruined it because they just couldn't cultivate it correctly.
Mm.
But eventually, thank God they stopped growing it. So yeah, we'll keep it going. Yeah, we're gonna have it in larger sizes for sure. We're rolling out. We only grow banjo in the greenhouse for now. We've tried growing it outdoors. It just grows much better in a greenhouse. All the strains are different. These things are crazy. But we're going to be launching a 1/2 ounce pretty soon of our greenhouse. So we will have it in bulk sizes, and it'll be aggressively priced like all our products. And yeah, we hope consumers enjoy more of it. But that's a special strain for sure.
Yeah, so go try it if you haven't tried it before. Go run out to your local dispensary. And someone also commented too that the banjo comes in a vape form via your partnership with Chemistry,
Yep.
which is another great
Yep.
company out there that you guys
Yeah.
work a lot with. Definitely check them out. Another question: where can people buy your blueberries, and can they buy them?
Sure. So blueberries are a little different than cannabis. Cannabis, we're very aggressively priced. We want it to be accessible for everybody, and we're relatively better at cannabis production relative to the competition, so we can sell it aggressively. Blueberries, though, we just we got started in 2015, and people have been cultivating blueberries since 1914. So we're still getting better at it. I mean, from a quality standpoint, nobody's better, but being able to do it efficiently and cost effective, there's still a lot of others out there that are can do it more affordably. So that being said, the long story short, there's a slight premium on our blueberries. They're sold at Good Eggs in the Bay Area. It's a delivery service. Also, Whole Foods is a good purchaser of ours. And down south, Erewhon's Markets carries them. And we're trying to get them into Oliver's up in the Sonoma County area. But yeah, usually like boutique grocery stores that just carry high quality produce. Like that's generally who you'll find it at.
And are they? What are the blueberries called? Are they also called like Coastal Sun
Coastal Moon.
blueberries?
Coastal Moon. Yeah.
Coastal Moon. Very good. And I have tried them before at Pharmacy Berkeley. One of your reps came by with them. They are delicious.
Yeah,
so very cool. One of our viewers was asking if you're aware of the edible planet movement.
No.
Okay. I'm not yet either. So maybe something that everybody can look up afterwards. And then recyclable packaging. Is that something that you guys already incorporate or something that you're going to be working on like down the road?
Yeah. All our packaging is planet friendly. It's all recyclable 100%, but we know that that's not good enough because no one really knows what happens to the recycling when it leaves your house, right? We hear these horror stories about how it just sits on a barge somewhere. So all our packaging has a polymer in it or what they call an enzymatic accelerator, which will break it down in a landfill. So if it ends up in a landfill or like, let's say, hey, even if it gets thrown in a recycle bin and it sits somewhere, it breaks down in 6 to 9 months. So even if it's sitting there statically, it will break down, and it's biodegradable basically. In California, you can't call it compostable because they have very strict rules on what you can call compostable. It basically has to break down in a static compost in a certain amount of time, but it will break down even if it if it ends up in a landfill. That's just very important to us. It's good. We don't think it's perfect. The cannabis industry has to continue to improve its packaging, but it's good enough for now. And we will be, when we start launching some of the larger sizes, the 1/2 ounce and the ounce, we're going to be moving to same thing, landfill friendly Mylars that'll break down in a landfill because we just have to err on the side of caution. We expect most stuff is going to end up in a landfill. So let's just make sure it breaks down even there.
Yeah. Thanks for clarifying. I know that with how much you guys care about the planet and the people and the plants, that you would have some plan for that. So thanks for clarifying that.
Yeah, for sure.
And then lastly, what does Coastal Sun have coming up this year? Now you talked about some like bigger sizes coming up. Is there anything else that your fans and customers should be looking out for?
Yeah, for sure. We're going to have more sun grown. So we have our farm and a couple of our partner farms are planning on loading up on sun-grown 3 to 4 times more this year.
Great.
We'll see how long it lasts. We're bringing fatso back. We grow fatso once a year. It sells out very quickly. A lot of growers don't like growing fatso. It's very finicky and challenging, but that's coming back. That's our second and third fastest. It's up in our top 3 strains for fastest sellouts. We're also really excited about a couple strains we're launching coming on our platform called Daddy Larry, which is a really souped up version of Purple Punch. It's more potent and flavorful, and it's just crazy. We have our partner farms up in Grass Valley growing black cherry gelato for us. We're getting excited about that. We also have Sebastian at Foothill River up in Grass Valley growing some special Purple City genetics strains for us. And we have more partner farms coming online as the demand catches up. We also just recently brought in a partner nursery, Hayes Valley, and they have some special strains they're working on. One of them is called Apple Tarts. It's also grown by Sebastian up in Grass Valley, so we're excited about that. And then later in this year, we're launching a strain that's new to us, and we haven't seen it around in a long time called Alcatraz, and we're really excited about that. So, and how do we know that these strains, like we go through a very extensive process. There's so many different characteristics that it needs to hit, and our employees do a lot of testing, and if it doesn't get past our crew, then it's not going to hit the market. So that's what makes us excited. Like if we're excited about it, like we expect that it's going to do well.
That's so cool. Well, this has been so informative. You are so knowledgeable about cannabis. You definitely have a passion, not only for cannabis, but for how it plays into like the whole system, how it affects people, how it affects the planet. And so that's another reason why I'm so glad that I'm a fan and a customer of your guys's. I feel like when I'm putting money into your guys' company, it's going to a good place, so I know that everybody does too. And again, thank you for all of the SB34 donations. You guys are one of the most giving of all the cannabis companies out there. And so truly, truly appreciate that. So this has been really great. Thank you so much for your time today, Darren.
Yeah, thanks for having us. We appreciate everything, all the support you guys have given us through the years. It's a relationship that goes back a long time. So yeah, keep up the great work. Thanks for having us, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah, and to also your team, you have a lot of great team members out there. So thank you to all of them that helped to make this possible as well. And then Scott, who I've been working with for a long, long time, and Rose, you guys have great people, just as much as great as your product as your people are as well. So
that's what makes the company. It
does. It truly does. And thank you to our audience members for being with us today here. I hope that we were able to share some information that will help you become better informed cannabis consumers, and that the information that we provided will help you find relief. Until the next time, stay safe and stay well, and we'll see you next time for another episode. Thank you.